Hello, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we are doing our second race for the road to GT7, and this one was a good one. So this time we decided to actually jump into our EMEA account to get some racing in, and boy was it a lot of fun. It was actually a really good mixture of really good racing, nice side-by-side aggressive action, and also a lot of deaths. Rest in peace, boys. Now, before we jump into it, if you guys can spare a few seconds to just hit that like button to help us out in the YouTube algorithm. If you don't, sending you straight to the Shadow Realm. And if you guys want to subscribe to catch more content, hit that red subscribe button down below. Anyways, that's enough promoting myself. Let's jump straight into the action. Alrighty, as we now jump into our qualifying for round number 2 out of 4 for this road to GT7, we come out in front of everybody. And this is kind of where I wanted to be at for this qualifying session. I didn't really want to have anybody ahead of us, nobody really behind us, because I just wanted to focus on make sure we hit our marks, see what we can do here for qualifying, and try to get a 54 for time. But it's across the start finish time for the first time. It is only good enough for a seconds. We hit a 55.6. Wasn't really too happy with that lap, so we went for a second one, try to see if we can improve here. Heading down to the start finish line for the final time, we get a 55.1. Very, very close to hitting that 54, but just a couple tenths too slow. And due to that, we get relegated down now into third. And I was just waiting for everybody else to finish their qualifying to see where we finally end up at. But once qualifying ended, it looked like we got lucky and we were able to snatch a P4 starting position. So like I said, it was very lucky because we weren't in the middle of the pack, we weren't in the back of the pack. That is not where I wanted to start off here, especially for this race, due to the fact that it is a grid start, and grid start around Suzuka is in its own a huge animal, and like it's just basically you don't want to be anywhere in the middle or in the back, because if you just accidentally get knocked out or hit from behind and you go straight into the AstroTurf heading to turn number 1, it's basically race over for you. So we're gonna see what we do here, as we are starting on the mediums. Out of the 3 compound tires, the softs, mediums, and hards were the ones given to us. We wait for the 5 red lights to go off as we shift our traction control to 1, waiting for them to go out, and away we go as we shift the traction control now down to 0. We get a decent start as we follow the second place driver Larry Bird going into turn number 1, and as we head now down to turn number 2, we get very, very lucky as nobody really killed us from behind. And judging on the mini map, it actually looked like everybody survived the first couple of corners. Now the rest of the corners on the lap, I can't speak for everyone to say that they made it alive, but all I know is that for the first 2 corners we all made it safely, and at least here we are looking pretty here, sitting here in 4th place. So again, strategy for this race. So we did start off on the mediums. I did want to see if we can try to just put in some clean, consistent laps, and if anybody was starting on the softs, try to hold them off for as long as we can, make them abuse those softs, and not let them gain the amount, like all that good time that they can on the fresh soft compound tires. But as we get into Spoon Curve, we get challenged here by R4M Gauntlet, and just fitting in his name right here as he goes into the inside, smashes us out a little bit heading to Spoon Curve. We give him a little bit of a tap of the Spleesman, but also just to kind of help him out here as we head into 130R. Going into 130R, we stay right behind him, keep it onto the middle of the track as we now head into chicane, try to defend our position from the Italian right behind us as we now come out of the chicane. But unfortunately, we just get on the power a tad bit too heavy and get a little bit of wheel spin, lose 2 positions to the Italian and the Brit of Civi, and we now get challenged by the Frenchman of Prima right behind us as we head down the straight, leading us into turn number 1 for the second time. So into the corner here, we get a little bit of some action back here as we get tapped from behind by the Frenchman. We both go into it deep, just trying to hold off our position, but lucky for us, we're able to keep it on the outside, not get turned by the Frenchman, and we were able to hold off our 7th place position. So we only lost 3 positions from that first lap. And starting off on the mediums, I'll take it now as we come out of 130R. So Off 130R, the Prince of Gauntlet spins out and heads straight into the barrier. And unfortunately for us, we get smashed from behind, head into the chicane by the Spaniard. As I believe what had happened is that he had lost his kind of direction where he was at just due to the distraction of Gauntlet spinning out. Misses his braking point, heads straight into our rear. And this was the result right here as he slams us into the barrier and then spins himself out. Faces the wrong way. And lucky for us, he kind of did correct us and we were able to get corrected towards the track. And we were able to just go on our merry way and get back in line here on this train. So going out of the chicane here on lap number 3, a couple cars elect to come into the pits as they decided, you know what, I've had it with these hards. I'm going to switch off to either the softs or to the mediums. And that's good for us because hopefully we could just stay with these guys right ahead of us. I believe they were on the mediums and the soft. Don't really want to fight with them. But if we could just stay with them and just put in some quick, consistent laps, we can hopefully make up some of the time that we lost with all the mistakes that happened, and of course that sent to the shadow realm on the second lap. So as we come out of the hairpin here, we stayed right behind the Russian and the Brit, and you can see that they were doing a lot of fighting, which is something I was not keen about. I wanted them to just stay single file and not really fight that much, but off of the chicane, the Russian gets a really, really bad case of wheel spin, just like us, how we did on the first lap. And we go side by side now as we head down into turn number 1. One of us is gonna have to back out, and the Russian decides it's gonna be me and allows us to get ahead of him, which is smart on his part. Didn't want to really waste too much time fighting side by side, and also it could have ended up really bad for him if we accidentally missed our braking point, force him out wide, and we would have been off into the dirty stuff and most likely would have spun out. So really, really smart, sensible move from him as we now work our way on Civi here. We unfortunately get a bit of wheel spin and lose the rear end coming off his spoon, but luckily due to the slipstream we were able to stay right behind him and we get a really great run now as we come into 130R. Try to sneak onto the inside, side by side. A little bit of contact is made with us and Civi goes a bit wide as we now head into the chicane. And unfortunately for him, he does lose that position as side by side into 130R is always a risk. And unfortunately for Civi, he just got a bit of a hit right there as we were both going for the same spot. It just didn't work out for him, but he did come into the pits, and I think he did switch off to either the softs or to the mediums to just try to get away from all the traffic and just run some laps on his own. So now across the start finish line here, leaning our way to lap number 7. A few cars ahead that started off on the softs decided to come in, and we are now finding ourselves in P4 with open track. And this is exactly what I needed because I just needed to put in quick, consistent laps. And luckily for us, we were hitting 59s, although I did want to hit 58s. I'll take the 59s as long as we had open track, as we now switch off from the mediums to the hard. So coming out of the pits, it was going to be a little bit treacherous here as we fall in line right behind the German, but unfortunately we've just come out right in front of Burst. And I know Burst wasn't too happy with that because kind of had nowhere to go except for our rear, but luckily it wasn't that big of an incident. He did get into our rear, but I don't think it really hurt him too much now as we jump up into lap number 10. So into lap number 10, we are still on the Racing Hard compound tires, and you can see how much it's affecting us here as we go a bit wide off of Degner 1. And due to that, it was a small mistake that cost us about half a second on the stint. And that's exactly what we did not need. So the entire time I was on the stint, I just wanted to minimize the mistakes, make sure that we didn't get caught in fighting, because these were going to be very, very important laps here. As long as we can do well on the hards and not bending like the car up ahead, I think we should be all right now as we come in for our final stop, switch over from the hards to the softs, and we'll see where we end up here now as we go right into the racing line, go into turn number 1. And we fall in line right behind Momo's in 12th. So unfortunately for the, I believe it's the Italian right up ahead in 9th, he did make contact with the barrier. And due to that, he ended up spinning out. and getting himself a 1.5 second penalty. So I knew I didn't have to worry too much about him, and it was going to come down to a 2-car pack here with Momos and the German. We also knew that the German was on the softs, but Momos was the big question here. I didn't know which compound he was on, and if he was on something else besides the softs, that might be a little bit dangerous for us, as the Irishman, apologize, not the Italian, gets punted out by the German going to Degner 2, and that kind of takes care of that issue right there, and turns this 4-car train now down into a 3-car train, and we get stuck right here, right behind Momos. So at this point, I kind of figured that Momos was not on the soft compound tires. As you can see that the German was able to just pull away from Momos, and I know Momos is fast, so I know if he was on the soft compound tires, he would have been able to keep up with the German. So I knew at this point it was go time. We had to get around him. There's only 4 laps to go. We can't stay stuck behind him. And as we head out of Dunlop Curve, we get a really great run heading to Degner 1, sneaking onto the inside, side by side with Momos. We are able to complete the overtake heading into Degner 2, and that is going to be P9 for us, as we now try to chase down the German here in 8th place. So now that we have open track, we could just pull in quick lap times. You can see that we are now a second faster than our personal best. We hit a 157.2, and we were able to now close up the gap on the German, as a couple cars up ahead did still have to make their final pit stop and use their final compound tires. We now hit a purple sector, and that is just showing you the pace that we have now with the soft compound tires. And due to the fact that we have open clean track, that was just so good for us, and we just were able to just put in lap after lap some good consistent lap times, as we now get the fastest lap of the race. So stuck behind the German now. He's fighting with 6th place of ABBA as they go into turn number 1. Going to turn number 1, the German decides to just punch him out of the way and sends ABBA straight into the barrier. As you can see that he just goes into the inside, tries to do a cutback, and just completely misjudges this, takes him out. And that is actually the second car that the German took out. He took out the Irishman going to Degner 2, and he takes out ABBA going to turn number 1. So at this point, I'm a bit worried about getting around him, as I don't know if he's racing anybody clean here, as he switches up ahead of us going to 130R. And we're just being very, very cautious here, as I didn't want to get ahead of him and then just find ourselves being the next victim of his KD here, and be death number 3 by the German. So we just stayed right behind him and try to hatch a plan here to try to see if we can get around him by the final lap, as another car of the Como, I think that's the name, comes into the pits. And we are now promoted up into P Steve. So this race actually went from negative to positive really, really quick, as we were, again, had a really bad first lap, and then we get smacked, killed on the second lap, and now we find ourselves up into P6. So this race has actually gone really, really well for us. We don't want to blow it. We do have a good gap away from Momos in 7th, and the last thing we need now is to just get destroyed by the German. But as we cross the start finish line here, leading us into the final lap, we decide to send on to the inside, side by side with Carl Rosberger. As we go into the inside, into turn number 1, he brakes very, very late compared to us, was able to just hold it on the outside, and that was a very great move from him, as he was able to just hold off that P5. But it's still not over. We still have an entire lap to just try to run him down, get ourselves into a nice seated position, and hopefully we can get that P5 away from him. So going into Dunlop Curve, we were just making sure that we don't accidentally overdrive the corners. We could have easily gone to the grass, and that would have been race over for us. And luckily for us, we kept it on the track, and we were just doing everything in our power to just stay right behind him, so we can probably get a really good run down the straight, leading us into 130R. So for the final time now into Spoon, Carlsberg gets a really, really bad corner. Gets a really bad exit, as we get a really great run now in the slipstream, closing in the gap. It's went down from 0.4 of a second, now down to 0.1 of a second. We decide to stay right behind him here as we try to sneak onto the inside into chicane, go straight into the outside, try to get a really good run on the entrance of the corner. We do, as he just goes a bit wide, but coming off the corner we get a better exit than him, but unfortunately we're just gonna run out of time. Sneaking onto the inside, it's gonna be a drag race down to the line. And Carlsberger was able to hold us off and get that 5th place position as we come home in P-Steve right in front of Momo's. And just based on everything that had happened on that race, I am actually very, very happy that we were able to come home with a P-Steve. Just due to the fact that, again, we got killed and rammed, and we saw other people get destroyed here on this race. But going back on this, when I was doing the race, I was live streaming, and a lot of people in the chat were telling me to just destroy the German just due to the fact that he had already killed 2 people, so he had like a 2.0 kill death ratio. I just couldn't find it in myself to take him out. And you can see here, once the race was over, we were able to gain 250 points to get added onto our total for the season here for the road to GT7. So let me know how you guys did here on this race. This was actually a really good race, although it was a tuning one. Just due to the fact that everyone was using the same car, just led to a lot of close battles and a lot of aggressive but great side-by-side racing. So let me know how you guys did in the comments down below. If you guys really enjoyed this video, again, feel free to smash that like button, hit that red subscribe button down below, turn into a great button if you want to catch more content. And if you guys really enjoyed the video, I really hope to catch you guys on the next one. Peace.